Just in the nick of time. What up, y'all? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. We took a little vacation last week, so no, we did not have a meeting. You didn't miss anything. There was not a session. We did not have a conversation live last week. Well, welcome to Free Thinkers. It's Tuesday. We do this every Tuesday night, so welcome to the show. Definitely have a few minutes to tap in, and certainly you are welcome to tap out whenever you'd like to. Just quick little introduction. I see we are already live. I am going to make sure that all of our videos are marked public in the places that they are posted, so that any comments that you make on any of the live videos can show up in our comment section. So if you do want to engage with us tonight, you have two options. You can join in the conversation, you can get onto the panel, or you can join us on our live chat, which is on any of the videos on Facebook, as well as the video that is streamed to our YouTube channel. So if you're watching us from YouTube, you can comment in the live chat. If you're there already, say what's up. We can see who's there. If you are watching us from the Facebook feed, say what's up. We'll see where you are. I still haven't tapped into my page yet to make sure it is public. I'm waiting for my phone to restart, but I will in just a second. So all comments that are posted on any of the live chats should show up on our comments here, and we will discuss them. What's up, Sheldon? So super easy. See, booyah. You say hello, and then hello, we talk about it, and then we throw it on the screen. So this is kind of how we engage with folks in our live chat that want to be a part of the conversation, but may not be able to get in to the actual panel, or might not be comfortable being on the panel. If you leave comments in our live chats, then this is how we engage with you too. So we appreciate those just as much as those who, risk their themselves to get on the show live and talk. So we'll go till 9:30 tonight. I mean, every once in a blue moon we do go till 10 o'clock, but generally we go from 8:05 to 9:30. If the topics are really good and we just have a really good conversation, we will extend it. But like I said, you can leave at any point. We do know it gets a little bit late if you're on the East Coast, so it's understood. Sometimes we pick a post, sometimes we do topics. Tonight's kind of a mix of each. It will be adult conversation. Obviously, if you want to follow some of what we are talking about tonight, all of these posts that we're going to cover are in the Facebook Free Thinkers group page. So pick a post is basically, we literally take posts that have been posted on our Facebook page and we just talk about them. Oftentimes they're conversations that have had quite a few comments going on the Facebook page. Sometimes not a whole lot of conversation. So there's lots of ways to engage in things that we've talked about, obviously. And so that's what we're doing tonight, is we're taking a few posts that were on the page and we're going to break it down tonight. Generally, I have them loaded into StreamYard, but I did not do any of that tonight. I did not get any of that done in time, so I apologize. But if you do go to our Facebook Free Thinkers page, if you go to my Facebook page, the memes, the quotes, the things we're going to talk about tonight have been broken down there a little more simple by the posts that were posted in Free Thinkers. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Feel free to join us at any point. Please hit the share button. If you're watching us now, just hit the share button if you would, please. Of course, we can't do this and grow without your support. So the share button, the like button, the join button certainly goes a long way. So with that being said, adult content, if I did not mention that, and we can jump right into it. So Armand, welcome back. It's been a while since we've seen you. Good to have you on tonight.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, thank you. Yes, it has. I'm glad to be back. I may not be able to stay the whole time, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You can always jump out a little early if you need to. Q, anything you want to share? I'm going to see if I can't grab some of these clips and add them to the page. But anything you want to share? Anything you want to discuss before we get totally started?
No, I just want to reiterate, jump into the conversation.
Right.
I'll let you know right now, I'm going to have the conversation as if you're here. So it's better if you're actually here, especially if you're if there's been conversation going on in the thread, jump on. Because I don't know, maybe y'all don't know how to do, but I do. We just gonna have a conversation. So if you want to rebut me, tell me I'm wrong, it's always best if you're here.
And that's why we do these pick-a posts, because oftentimes we will have a significant number of people talking about these things on the page, but texting is the easiest form of miscommunication. So that's why we like to have these conversations in person with our words, in person, with our words, face to face, essentially, so that we can actually get inflections and emotions and intentions, out more clearly than sometimes just reading stuff. And, and sometimes it's hot topics, sometimes it's sensitive issues, sometimes it's not, but we definitely appreciate the dialogue and the conversation. So I was able to get the the clips added. So I don't know which one you want to start with first.
Let's go with that one first. Okay, so first I want to talk about the post itself, and then I want to talk about the interaction, which I haven't read yet, that you said that
okay,
that you continue. Well, I mean, if people continue to accuse you of being a something phobe, then is there truth to it if enough people keep saying it?
I mean, that's a perspective to consider. However, I have to consider, like my dad always taught me, consider the source. Always consider the source. So back to what you were saying.
Okay, so let's get to the post first. What
okay.
the post? The post says, how long, I'm trying to read this from this little thing. Let me see. How long should a woman wait before she tells her man she's sexually attracted to women, that she's been with a woman, or that she's bisexual? Or should she ever tell, considering the judgment that will likely come? Warning, you will be blocked for judgmental comments. That's funny. So Armand, how long should a woman wait before she tells the person that she goes both ways? Or even if she's had it. Oh, that's two different questions. Let me ask you that one first. Go ahead.
Has versus does.
Mm-hmm. You're still muted, Armand. Still muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Well, I think that, yeah, she should tell as soon as possible, because if she's in a committed relationship, and and she has had multiple partners or whatever, then yeah, I think that for health reasons she should disclose.
So, okay. So again, are these fair double standards, Nikki? And I'm gonna come to you with this, because that's like we wouldn't expect a person to give up their body count to another person.
Or would you? If you ask,
I hear a lot of people say that it's out of bounds to ask somebody what their body count is.
And that can, and I think it's each person's perspective. I think the older I've got, I realize, as like a 43-year-old woman, any man that I encounter is probably going to have a significant body count.
I know that. So let me request. This is a pre-question before we get to the actual question. Is it in bounds to ask a person what their body count is?
I think it's in bounds. The question is, does it matter? Does the answer matter to you? Right?
It matters to the person that's asking.
Or does it? Or do you just want to know just to know? Like, are you still going to get with that person? Are you still going to pursue that person? I guess if that's an issue for you that is important, then hell yeah, it's in bounds. I don't think that a person asking another person what their body count is off limits. I don't. Like, that doesn't offend me. That doesn't bother me.
So, but it's not offensive. It's not out of bounds to ask somebody, hey.
Well, I mean, okay. Well,
to me, it's not. I'm not bothered by that.
So then, are these two questions related? So, like,
yes, it is. We get into the basis of it even before. It's not directly related.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I should say, like, let me go back. So, I mean, are the two, like, let's say if you like the difference between asking somebody their body count and asking somebody, did you use protection? Like, I'm basically trying to ask, like, are those two questions related?
Are those two?
No, because as we talked about a couple weeks ago, some people think condom sex doesn't count.
Who said that?
You said that somebody said that. I'm not saying you said it, but I'm saying like the very tail end of one of the conversations.
I'm just talking about how women be lying all the time, and they downplay their body count because they can excuse anything and pretend like it didn't count.
Well, see, I guess the reason why I'm asking that question is because I'm just wondering, like, because I heard Nikki say that her belief is that asking somebody their body count, that's not too personal of a question where that should be out of bounds. So I'm just wondering, like, related to that question, is asking somebody, did you use protection, is that out of bounds?
I don't think so. I think that you can choose to ask a potential love interest any question you want to. Now, are they required to answer? Never. Could one person feel like it was improper? Sure. But it doesn't mean, in my opinion, that it's unacceptable to ask that question. Like, if I'm literally going to be laying down with you, maybe at some point, and that's something that I want to know, why is that improper to ask somebody? How many people have you been with? At the same time,
you weren't there.
And they could lie. I mean, you could easily say, oh, blah, blah, blah number of partners. So, I mean, I really don't even know if that answer is going to be answered honestly by most people.
That's what I'm saying. So now, so you're not forcing a person to lie, but you're encouraging a lie, especially if somebody has a high body count, if they have or if they don't know what your body count is, so they're either guessing or they do know what your body count is and they're trying to stay within the same range as what your body count is.
Right.
You encouraging. Well, I can't say you encourage it. It seems like you're encouraging dishonesty to invoke those type of questions that, I mean, you weren't there. Like, why? I don't know.
Well, Q, I mean, I guess what you're getting at kind of goes back to the question I was asking. Like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, maybe I should phrase it, but I'm trying to ask is, like, which is the more important question? Knowing the body count or knowing whether the people use protection or not? Because if you really just go by the body count,
some people it's different. It depends on what the person's motivation for the question is.
Right.
Some people be like, "Oh, you a hoe. I don't want to deal with that." Other people are like, they want to know how experienced. See, some people look at it like you a hoe. Some people look at it like you're experienced. Some people will look at it like, I don't want no virgin or close to a virgin who hasn't experienced anything, and now I'm gonna get into a relationship with them, and they still gonna be curious about a lot of stuff. Especially at certain ages, a lot of people are like, I don't want you to still. I heard somebody say this. I don't know what conversation I was having with somebody. And they was like, at a certain age, whatever fantasies or whatever curiosities, I want you to have gotten all of that out the way by the time we get together. I don't want to be in our 40s and you still curious about Asian or something. Like, you had your 20s and 30s to do that. Don't wait till 40s and 50s and you still got these hidden fantasies. Now I got to try to deal with these fantasies that you got. So,
okay, that's interesting. I didn't know there was a timeline. That's interesting. I didn't know there was a timeline. Thank you for letting me know that. I didn't know there was like a schedule.
I think at a certain I think there's a basic expectation when you reach a certain age that most people, they will want most people to have gotten all the curiosity out of the way. Like, for me, I'm concerned about people who, at my age, finding somebody who's still looking for someone who's a virgin, close to a virgin, or pure. That's like.
Does that actually happen? Like, do you come across people who are our age who are still looking for a virgin?
Not necessarily a virgin.
Okay, I was like,
very
no
close
way.
to it, and they want someone who's still semi-pure.
Sure.
But that can, I'm like, are you sure that's what you want? Are you sure that's what you want? That can be dangerous a different way.
Right.
So, okay. And anyway, I'm underneath the actual question, but I was trying to find out if those questions, forget about same sex, you being attracted to the same sex, are past questions about sex in bounds, period? Or is that even out of bounds before we even get to someone disclosing that they're attracted to the same sex?
Are questions about past sex out of bounds?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I think you have to decide what is your motivation with asking these questions first. Are you just asking these questions because you're being nosy and you want to know, and something It's kind of like, don't go searching for something because you're gonna find it, right? Like, and I really don't subscribe to that theory. I really don't subscribe to that theory a whole lot, to be completely honest. However, I feel like if I'm with a guy and I'm 43 years old and I know that he's clearly not a virgin and probably has some children, like he's had some sex, like he's done things, like I'm just gonna kind of expect he's done everything at this point. And so, like, we'll figure the rest out, as time goes on. But I don't really care to know your sex escapades. I want to see what you can do. I don't care I really don't care what your past
but
has
at a certain point, there's a balance. The
questions don't bother me. I'm not bothered by the questions.
But okay, but there's a balance. And then let me jump to you, Jules. Like, isn't there a certain number that you get to where red flags are raised? Like, okay, this person got a problem. By the time you're like, oh yeah, I'm at 1,314. Like, hold on, this is more than just.
That's a lot of sex.
At a certain point,
what is this person's industry? Is this person a regular person, like, a regular person, or are they in the entertainment industry?
But then even still, the question will become: can I trust that you're going to be satisfied with me and me only? If you felt the need to have,
right,
your average is about 65 people a year from the time you was 18. Like, is that gonna?
That to me is what it comes down to, is like, if he or she was a hoe, are they still out there hoeing? Like, right. How long has it been since they were living that life?
Right. Since you've been an active whole life.
Is there even like a cutoff point for that? Really? Like, at some point, if that's just who you were and you were freely expressing all of that, then is monogamy what you even want?
Because
that's a bigger part to me, is that somebody that's been with that many people, they're probably not looking for the same things in life that I am. You don't bed hop like that.
And can you're not just that, Jules, is your body equipped for monogamy? Because some people can want, I just want, I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and I'm gonna do a whole segment on this one day. And it talks about alignment. There's so many people who I run into where they are out of alignment. They want one thing, their body wants another thing, and they don't directly want to, but society, their parents, the way they were raised, their social setting tells them so you can have three different thoughts going through you all at the same time. And a part of you, no, I don't want to do this. I want to wait till I get married. But then the other part of you, horny, and you want to jump on something. And then another part of you, and it's like it always sounds like you're contradicting yourself because you're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
But you're instinctively, what you want and what your social circle accepts can be three different things. So then it sounds like you're talking out of three different sides of your mouth. And it's like, make up your mind. What do you want? But that means you're just out of alignment.
Right. But that's people not being willing to be true to who they are. And,
right.
And not knowing who they are. And maybe, maybe they stopped the whole life because of social pressure, or because they got hurt enough times, or because they saw the damage they were doing. Or,
so then the question is, why were you hoeing like that in the first place?
Exactly. And I think that ultimately there's some people who are just very free with their sexual expression. Right. And I've known people in my life who that's just part of who that they are, and they're polyamorous, and I don't know which word it is. They're poly, whatever it is, and they're free to express themselves sexually with anybody and everybody at the drop of a dime, and it's just part of who they are. But a lot of those people I've known has been based in some sort of trauma, and so is it because they aren't healed? Is it just because they have a hormonal imbalance? Do they have a ridiculously high sex drive? And then it does come into that, could I ever be the one that could satisfy that person? But I think that more often they're not willing to live in their own truth and be accepted by the people, because everybody ain't going to accept you for what you want to do and who you are. You got to find your tribe. Everybody's got a tribe out there. You're not the only one with these crazy thoughts or with these whatever thoughts. You just got to be willing to forego what you're comfortable with, as far as a setting of people, an environment that you're not actually internally comfortable. It's just you've gotten used to it, to be able to live in your truth.
Right. So let me ask you real quick, Jules. If you've been talking to somebody, not exclusive, I mean, you just been talking to somebody for, let's say, a month, and they ask you your body count. Are you okay with them asking you that?
They can ask me, but I don't have a number. I'm not gonna give them a number.
Okay.
Like,
So
I
you're
don't
not,
want, because I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know if you're in the 1,000 ballpark, then yeah, that's a red flag
right.
to me.
So
If
number one,
the,
you're not going to answer it because
I'm
on
48
some
years
level,
old. I mean, if at 48 you haven't been doing some stuff, I don't know what to tell
right? But
you.
they want specifics. So I mean, it's two part. Number one, you're not going to tell them because you feel like it's not their business, like Adriana said. And then number two, are you offended by them asking you?
No, I mean, it depends on the person and the reason for the ask, because
So it could
there
be
are some,
potentially offensive.
yeah, there's some people who are just asking to see if y'all are on level or on more of a evenly yoked thing, or, but I mean, that was something in your 20s. If somebody's asking you that, by your 30s, if you've been married, you've been divorced, you've been in relationships, whatever, it's like, what bearing does that have unless that number is really
right.
low or really high? Where does it, what's the goal
Right.
of asking? If it's just to then use it against me, no, man. Shut
So
up.
I see Nora saying, "What does it matter?" And I'm like, I mean, I don't know what it does matter, but I know a lot of women will ask that question, and a lot of men will ask that question also. So, I mean, good, yeah. What does it matter? I don't know, but obviously it matters to a lot of people because a lot of people will ask that question. Nikki, if someone asks you, you've been talking to them for about a month, ain't nothing went nowhere, but they ask you, so what's your body count? Number one, are you answering the question? Or number two, are you semi-offended because they asked you the question?
I am definitely not offended by being asked that question. No.
Okay. Are you the person who would ask that question to somebody?
I probably wouldn't, because I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care what happened before me. Like, what I think that if a person had 1,000 partners before me, them fucking red flags are gonna appear magically anyways. So I don't need to know that you've been with 1,000 people to know that shit's gonna seep through your pores, baby. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
and maybe this is maybe this is maybe this is bedroom behavior, right? Like, so no, I don't ask how many people a person has been with. Now, like, there have been conversations I've had with certain men where, like, I've inquired to, like, have you had a threesome before? Like, have you done some of the other, like, non-traditional like two people things, right? Just out of curiosity, right? And I know a lot of industry people, and so sometimes I'm curious just to hear about, like, groupie stories and shit like that. But for the most part, I don't care. Like,
Okay.
your number doesn't bother me. Your mileage doesn't bother me. Like, I know what mine is. I honestly, at 43, almost 44, I could probably give you a ballpark number if I started counting. But I really, I mean, I don't think it's fucking relevant, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't. I know I'm not a hoe. I mean, and if I was with a dude who was a hoe, it's gonna manifest itself. So
Nora said, what would be a great number for guys versus girls? I look, that could go a different direction, so I don't know if I'm gonna go into that. But I will say, if the fluctuation depends on how many long-term relationships that you've been in.
right.
Some people, if you've been in long-term relationship, then it's a good chance you'll have a much lower number. And
True.
you can't compare those to someone who's been single for 10, 12 years.
Another reason why I don't think it's relevant to ask, Q. I got out of a 16-year relationship. Everybody had way greader mileage. Well, maybe not mileage, but had way greater body counts than I did. So like, I would have been, it would have been totally ignorant of me to go out into this world thinking that, oh, well, just because I only have, a handful of partners, then you should only have a handful of partners. Like, no, that's not realistic.
Okay, let me get to Armand, and then we're gonna jump into the actual question. But we did this. The establishing this baseline, I think, was important. Armand, you've been talking to somebody for 30 days or so. They ask you what your body count is. How many people you've been with? Are you going to tell them, number one, and number two, are you offended that they asked you?
Well, if they didn't know me that well and they asked me, yeah, I would tell them. And no, I wouldn't be offended by it. I would actually, I mean, basically, I would appreciate that they would want to get to know that about me, that they would want to know more about me. Yeah, I'd appreciate the curiosity. I'd appreciate, okay, this person is interested in actually getting to know the real me.
So on the flip side, would you be curious to know what their body count was?
Well, let's see.
Say what?
Most likely, I pretty much already know their body count will be bigger than mine, but I mean, well, I mean, then see, so I mean, then yeah, I would probably want to ask them, and basically, I would ask a follow-up question: did you use protection?
Okay, so Armand he gonna go take it a step deeper with it. Okay,
but to me, that's the more important questions. How many long-term relationships? How long were they? How long have y'all been? How long have you been single on your own? You know, some of the questions that Nikki said about some of the more exploratory things. What have you done? Getting a better understanding of who they are. Those things, to me, a body count number is not as much indicative of who the person is as some of those other questions.
Yeah, I know. But do you expect people to tell you the truth about the protection thing? Do you use? Ain't nobody.
No,
they're gonna be like, yeah, I use protection every single time.
Right? Oh yeah, it was always.
They're gonna lie about that. Now let me say this about Adriana. Adriana, I think that the statement that you made is primarily true, but depending on the size of the city you live in, number one, and also depending on the size of the age gap. See, because even at my age. When I was single and I was heading into my 40s, there was times I was dating people in their mid to late 20s. Two totally separate circles. So you can go through, you can hang out with somebody and your circles not really overlap because of just you in a whole different you in a whole different it's just different. You know, you're in a whole different social setting.
I mean, just because you live in Austin don't mean you know people like that.
Right.
I ain't from Austin. It took me a long time to get a try. But just think about that.
As a man, me being somewhere around my 40s, how many guys in their 20s am I going to be talking to? So maybe a lot of the people that she interacts with, I'm not gonna know anything about them. We not gonna have nothing to do with each other. We're not gonna have any of the same circles, and vice versa. How many 40, 50-year-old women or men is she gonna know? Maybe she might know, maybe not. But it's depending on where you is and how far the gap is. You can be in totally different social circles, even in the same area. That's my thought. So. Let's get directly to the questions. Nikki, where's the question again? At what point in time, how long should it take before a woman tells their potential person that
they are bisexual or have been with other women?
Have dabbled?
I mean, so
that's two questions. Hold on, Nikki. That's two questions actually. Number one, let's go here. If you've dabbled, even let's say that you're not bi, but you've dabbled before.
That makes you bisexual if you've dabbled, doesn't it? Like, wouldn't that just by default?
No, you experiment.
I mean, but you're experimenting with bisexual, but you're experimenting with bisexual into relationships.
Q, isn't the definition of dabbling that means that you once you do it, aren't you officially like?
No, I don't think so at all.
Your brand?
You could have did something in your college years. You could have, had a night or two, or a couple nights in college, and now 15 years later, you haven't even gone down that road, nor do you have the desire to. Are you still going to be labeled as bi?
I guess probably not, but I guess this is the nuance.
Like, why would you even label yourself that when that's not even? Oh yeah, I tried that. It was well, we was real drunk, and it was that's just not a road I want to go down again. And then from that point, then why would you? I just don't get why would you still label yourself that if that's you found out that you're not even interested.
No, if you try plumbing and you don't like it, you're not a plumber. Okay, so dabbling. So do you tell your love interest?
First question, yes. If you've gone down that road at least once, do you tell them?
If they ask, I personally, and this is just me, and this is how this whole conversation came about on the page. So if you haven't read the comments, go to the comments on the Facebook Freethinkers page and go to this post and read the comments that are on this post, because this is where this comes from. So for me, I do not have an issue with the question being asked. And I also feel like there are just some things that you should be truthful about. You just should be truthful about. Now, that doesn't mean that the response that you may get is always warranted. That does not mean the response that you get is always fucking appropriate. That doesn't mean that the response that you get does not come from a really crummy person who gave you a really, 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 really shitty response. But I think that there are some things that you should be truthful about. And I feel like if you are engaging in a relationship, even if it's the very beginning stages, the talking stages, we're still going to call it a relationship, because Jules and I are friends. We have a relationship. You and I are friends. We have a relationship. So at any level of relationship, if there are certain questions that come out based on sexuality or based on sexual experience with somebody, let's say, of the same sex, and that's not generally what this person is coming to you for, I think that it's okay. I think that is one of those areas where, yes, it is right to tell the truth. Okay. I understand why people's feedback was, I think what I was told was, I'm not entitled to know anybody's sexual history. And you're absolutely correct. I'm not entitled to know anybody's sexual history. I'm not at all entitled to anything. But I think that if I'm dating a man, or if I'm going out with a man with the assumption that this is a male-born man and we're going to date, I don't think there's anything wrong with me if I have a fucking reason to ask what his born gender was. I don't think there's anything wrong with me asking the question. And I also believe that it should be answered honestly. And I don't know how me saying that I think that you should relay this information to a potential love interest early on in your courting makes me a homophobe.
Hold on.
If you don't want to continue the conversation because the person won't be honest or will not tell the truth or chooses to not answer the question.
Okay, yeah, don't go down there. We about to get to that in a second.
But that's the whole point. I don't have a problem with the question. I think it's important to be told in the initial stages, at least before you have sex with this person. And that seemed to have been not a popular response.
Hold on, we're gonna get to that in a second.
Well, I'm
touching the actual statement. We're gonna get to the other part in just a second. Go ahead, Armand.
I was just saying that I agree with what Nikki's saying. I mean, because I think too, for just health reasons, it's important to be honest about something like that. Because suppose, that other person decided to play for the other team for a little while, and then let's say, for example, that
they're playing for the other team.
Yeah.
So they were bisexual, and that's fine. Like, we can totally call it what it is. It's okay. Like, they were bisexual, whatever.
Yeah. But then, like, let's say, for example,
right? But people getting their feelings real quick if we fucking use the wrong terms.
Nikki, we gonna go there. I'm slow walking this. We going there. I promise you, we going there. Don't even worry about it. We gonna get there.
And so I mean, let's say, for example, when that person was, let's say that person was experimenting. I mean, bitches use that term you use, Q. But then, like, for example, let's say they caught something and they don't know they caught it. So I think that, like Nikki said, being honest about that can act as a jumping off point to, well then maybe we ought to go get tested or something like that, to make sure that, for example, when you were experimenting, you didn't accidentally catch something that you could transmit. You could transmit to the partner you got right now.
True that.
All right, so
Jules, you got any input before we jump?
Well, really quick, let me jump in here really quickly, only because somebody's asking for the link, and I don't know who that is, but if you go to the Facebook Freethinkers page, the link for StreamYard is there. I don't think you can copy it from here, but on the Facebook Freethinkers page, the StreamYard link is at the very top, and it is on my personal page too. There's an event, so you can join the conversation that way. Sorry, go ahead, Jules.
Yeah, no.
Which part of it, Q?
Because yeah, like I to answer the original question, before you're intimate, before too many feelings get involved, I have a
Okay.
right to know if the
you're in.
man that I want to be with, because I am a heterosexual woman, I have the right to know if the man that I want to be with has an interest in being with other men. I have the right to know if they, if they have the right to know if I have a thing for other women, because we're out and
Right.
about and he's worried about whether I'm looking at other men. Meanwhile, I disappear into the ladies' room and y'all always be tripping about how long we stay in there. And like that's like we have like there's things about the other person. And I actually, when I was 20 years old, I was dating someone. I was a bartender, he was a bar back at a nearby bar. We had known each other for probably 6 or 8 months. We started dating, and a few weeks into it, things were going really great between us, and like we both felt like things were going great, and we went out on a date, and towards the end of the night he straight up was like, hey, I really need to talk to you about something. And when he said I'm bi, I was like, you're what? Like I was 20. It totally, like, I didn't even get what the hell the man was saying. But when it clicked, when it registered, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, look, I need to like really think about that. And for me, my personal choice, I don't have any problem with him being bi. We stayed friends, but that's not what I want in a mate. So I respected the fact that he told me, respected the fact that he gave me the choice. I never spoke. I mean, to this day, all the people that we worked with, all the people we hung out with, I never spoke about it to any of them. That's his truth to live in or not, and to express and share or not. And when anybody asked, I just said we were better off as friends. It was real simple. But I still to this day hold great respect for him as a 22-year-old man who was finding himself to be strong enough in who he was and have enough respect and love for me to give me that choice. And I chose not to go down that path with him, but I think that I just can't. I'm sorry. I think that's one of the, like, you see all these things, and that was one of the things that Nikki got attacked with was, people getting attacked for coming out as who they are and whatever. Well, you need to understand who you're going out with better than. Like, you need to take time getting to know that person. If you had told them that on the phone, then they wouldn't have slit your throat. I don't know what to tell you. Like, have these conversations. Why are you putting yourself in dangerous situations?
Okay. Well, I see, obviously, y'all want to go there, and y'all just biting at it. So let me say this real quick. I think the second date, if there's a second date, then that's the time where you go ahead and disclose. If you're active in that. Now, if that's your past and you don't go down, nor do you plan on going back down that road, then your past is your business. You disclose it how you want to. But if that's a lifestyle that you attach to your present, and you also plan on that being a part of your lifestyle, possibly later in the future, yes, by the second date. If the first date was good enough that there was a second, then that would be the time to jump that out before, even though I do like what you said, Jules, but even before those intimate feelings arrive, because I don't want a person to get those type of feelings for me if that's going to be a deal breaker even ahead of time. Like, oh man, So, I mean, I don't think either is wrong, but I would just say the second date.
Yeah, absolutely, before intimacy, but before those feelings start developing. And second date might be the right time for that, but certainly within the first few dates, it needs to be disclosed before there's any sexual intercourse that happens, before too much sexual contact happens. That's not intercourse, and more than that, before emotions get too deep on anybody's side.
Got you. So before we move ahead, I want D'Highs, I don't know if I'm saying that right, to jump in and give me his thoughts. But Nikki, you was gonna say something first. What you got, Nikki?
Well, I just wanted to send the obvious disclaimer, right? That, Jules had made the comment that if you would have, been forthcoming about the information, maybe you wouldn't have got your throat slit. And I'm going to be the first one to say, nobody thinks that any violent response to that scenario is ever fucking justified. No. Like, never, ever, 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 ever is it okay. And I understand why people do withhold their possible sexuality or their sexual lifestyle, because you do oftentimes get threatened and assaulted by, men and women, who might not like the response. That's not okay. Like, so I understand why there's a reservation sometimes, but I still feel like honesty is fucking is the standard. I just do. So okay, so we'll go with second date.
Okay, I'm with that. Now, before we jump to the second part of this topic, D High. First of all, how would you like to be addressed while you're on this show?
You asking me what to call me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just say D Highs, I guess.
D
I
has
don't care.
All right. Okay, D. What do you have as far as
well,
your thoughts so far in the conversation?
I don't even know what your
thoughts?
show is. I just found it.
Okay.
This is my first time being here.
Welcome to the show.
That's what's up. Okay. So when did you jump in? Like, how much have you heard so far?
I wasn't really following.
Okay.
I
No
mean,
problem.
I don't even know what you're talking about, so I
gotcha. Just take your
couldn't really
time.
follow
Okay,
anything.
so
Keep
you
talking.
just hang out for a little bit.
And then once you catch it, once you're ready to jump in.
I do have a question though.
Sure. Don't take me off subject though, D.
Is anybody drinking?
I usually am, but I'm not right. You know what? I was, but Nikki started the show. Nikki started the show early. I'm like, oh shoot, I ain't got time to get downstairs. But you good though. You good, man. Ain't no problem.
Nobody's drinking.
Well, nah, I ain't gonna say everybody.
I got my margarita.
Yeah, you ain't by yourself. You ain't by yourself.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
Armin? Is that your name?
Nope.
Nope, nobody else.
I'm just drinking tea. Sorry. Just drinking tea.
I can't see
Do you want to ask the question again? Because Cassius wanted to know what the question is really quickly, and then we can, catch some folks up because there's
I'm just about to jump into the next portion of that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna ask also, like, what the show's about.
We'll follow.
Playing double jug. Just once you catch what we're saying and you ready to get some input, then jump in. Because we actually about to transition to the next. And basically, to give you a short answer, this show is about absolutely everything. We talk about everything and anything. We don't stick to one particular topic. From show to show, we may have various topics.
Is this
but
drama?
Everything. Just follow us, and then once you get in, then you'll get it. Don't even worry about it right now. So, Nikki, lead us in, because I still haven't watched it yet. But I did hear that you were yet again accused of being something phobic. Tell us about that. We had a free thinker conversation, and through that conversation, then what happened? Tell us what happened. You got accused of being, because of this based off this statement, you were accused of being homophobic. Is that right?
Homophobic. The word that was used was homophobe, and so I asked for clarification.
Start reading this right now. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. And I asked for clarification why homophobe is used anytime somebody disagrees with the theory that one doesn't have to or shouldn't have to, that it's wrong to ask what a person's birth sex is, or that it's wrong to ask what a person was born as, right, male or female. So that's essentially where that. So the picture, of course, goes up of the bisexual, encounter.
Mm-hmm.
People basically, some people were like, I agree, it needs to be told right away. Some people said, that's my business. I'm not at liberty to share this information. Some people said that people who are in the LGBT community do not come out and tell people early on because there's a threat of violence, which I totally 100% understand that fear. But I said that I think it is critical early on, because me, as a female-born woman who wants to date male-born men, I want the man that I'm going out with.
That's my issue with what you just said, though.
Say that again?
That's my issue with what you just said.
What?
If a gay person is dating someone who clearly identifies as being straight, why are you dating them without telling them that up front? Like you just talked about how some people don't want to disclose their sexuality because of how they might be judged.
Like a transgender individual.
So if you're having a casual conversation, then maybe I get that. But say if you go out on a date, and let's not play stupid. If this person is, straight or coming to the date as a straight person. Like,
right.
Why are you not disclosing that information? Or why would you continue to go to a date with a person who clearly didn't have a full understanding about your sexuality? I do have an issue with that. But anyway,
and so that's
a side note. Go ahead.
So that's kind of where the conversation took a turn, is that if the only thing that is going to separate me from having a great relationship with a great man is how he was born, then that makes me homophobic, because that's the only reason I wouldn't want to engage in a relationship with this person. And one, that doesn't mean I don't want to, but two, it is equally my right to know who I'm potentially involving myself with as a love interest. So if obviously I'm, past, well, I'm not past childbearing ages, I can still have them, but I ain't having no more kids. But, if I wanted to have children, I would prefer to be with a male-born man. So if we want to have children, we can go the natural way, right? Now, the flip side is going to say, well, you can do, in vitro fertilization, you can do adoption, you can do surrogacy, you can do all these things. And that's fine if that's what you want to fucking do. It's fine if that's what you signed up to do. But if I sign up to be with a man who may get me pregnant, or if a man signs up to get with a woman who may carry his child, that's relevant information for somebody to know. It's just relevant information. And I understand the fear of giving that information oftentimes is a response that is not savory. And that's wrong with that person. I get that. But that doesn't make me homophobic for wanting to know if a man was born a man, and then me deciding whether or not I do or don't want to date this person based on that information. So that brought up the conversation of what makes one phobic, because we've heard homophobic, we've heard transphobic, we've heard all kinds of things when you disagree with that baseline of when to tell. Should you tell?
So I'm looking at the post right now. So and Patches took it to the direction of, and if you hear Patches, then jump on. Members of the LGBTQ community are more likely to experience violence than straight folks. They are under no obligation to expose themselves to such threats. Perhaps homophobes should announce themselves on the first date to give the other person the opportunity to protect themselves. So to make the assumption that everyone who feels that...
By the way, why are you talking about people's sexual preference?
Because that's what the topic is.
Yeah, that's the topic. The whole topipic, this whole topic is about that part.
Is that what you're talking about all night?
Yeah. I don't know. We 48. We might. We 48 minutes in. That could be the rest of the conversation. We may jump into some other things. We might not. I'm not sure. Members of the so anyone who thinks that they should disclose it, does that automatically make them homophobes?
That's ridiculous.
Okay, Jules says it's ridiculous. Armand, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking that they should disclose it. Yeah.
Okay, so you think that they should, and then Nikki, I kind of know how you think on that as well. I don't. So basically, what I'm looking at is I'm trying to. First of all, I think the angle of the question. I think she took the question and turned it into something else.
I think so. That's why I said what I said. I mean, this is a very dangerous response, because this is not at all like literally what I was talking about. And then to just call people who question homophobes, that's the fucking danger in this mission. And you're going to lose people who do want to support equality by calling people homophobic and transphobic, who really and truly by definition are not. It is also my right to know. You don't have to tell me anything, but I can ask. And me being able to say I do or do not want to continue this sexual relationship, or this potential sexual relationship, does not make one phobic, because a person has a preference of what they choose to lay down with. That's ridiculous. And this is the danger in this conversation. And this is why I do feel the way I do when this conversation happens, because This is not the first time I've been told I'm homophobic. And anybody who truly, truly knows me, knows my spirit, knows how fucked up and wrong that is. Simply because I want to know if this man was born with a penis or a vagina and I get to choose? Come on now.
Okay, so
it's crazy to me.
To lighten this up, and I do agree with you, Nikki. But like I said, I try to grab the angle because I think
of course
that's the danger of taking a question and turning it to mean what is. I understand where the sensitivity is for her when it comes to that, but that wasn't what the question was actually directing towards. So if once you do that, then you can end up turning something into something that it was never designed to be, and that can be dangerous for conversation. That could be dangerous, and then because now you get to the place where you're labeling people that I don't think they deserve that label based on if you actually followed the question. Yeah, if you followed the question the way it was presented, then you wouldn't take those extremes.
No, and labeling people as some kind of extreme and just discounting what they say, because I took a small portion of what you said and I'm just going to run with that and label you as an extremist of whatever is a great way of discounting other people, disrespecting other people and their right to their viewpoints. And it is part of the emotional turmoil that is being plotted and used against us in the programming to divide us as a people across all the media platforms out there, man. If you say one thing wrong about somebody of a different color, then you're racist. If you say one thing wrong about somebody who happens to have a different sexual preference than you're homophobic. If you say one thing wrong, it's all of a sudden you're labeled as an extremist, and then that's a quick way for them to discount anything else you have to say. Because now they've boxed you into something based off of a portion of a thought process, and they ran with the rest of it, filled in the blanks, and made you something that you're not, so that they don't have to give you the same credit intellectually anymore. They don't have to count you in anymore.
Right. Okay. So, and I don't know how much further we'll go with this, but just to respond to you, Patches, I hope you get on. And if you ever get time, maybe you're not available right now, let me know. We can always go. We can go live anytime I do this. I've done this in the past before. I've done it all before that. Go ahead, D. Go ahead, D. What you got? And I'm gonna finish my statement.
Somebody's saying like, what they should know what they're.
Okay. So based upon the violence that a lot of people in the LGBTQ community experience, they're saying that they should not be under any obligation to expose themselves and basically put themselves at risk.
What are you talking about? So, all right, I mean,
I can't give you the whole history, D.
Coming across a man or a woman. So, what are you saying?
Okay,
that I shouldn't know that I'm coming across a man or a woman.
So basically, they're saying if your sexuality goes against the traditional grain, and what I mean traditional grain, whether you're bi, trans, gay, what is considered traditional, then you should disclose that information.
Hold on. So if I were to come across somebody and then, you think that they're a woman, you shouldn't be.
You're going specific right now. I don't even want to go specific yet. We talking in general terms at the moment. So hold on just a second. What I was going to say. Let me say what I was going to say. So Patches,
because that could cause violence. I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's a true thing.
There's people that, they come across people. It's caused murder.
True. Okay, so good. I'm glad you said that. So let me say what I'm saying, because that kind of goes right into what I was going to say to Patches directly. So I will not dispute that there's elevated violence when it comes to that community.
Right.
I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to disagree with that. What I will say is that does not excuse that same community from being responsible like everyone else.
That part.
If heterosexual people
all right, so
have to be
if a
hold on a
person
second, D.
Hold on, no, wait, because you said something. And
hold on a second. Let me finish out because I don't want it to get misconstrued. So Patches, what I'm saying is, it's perfectly fine, but just like everybody has a responsibility, you can't be excluded just because you're from the LGBTQ community. I want everyone to be responsible and make sure that they take care of themselves in the best way. So hopefully we can continue this conversation later because it is a good conversation, and I think it's very needed also at the same time as well. Nikki, do you have anything? Nikki, Jules, Armand, D, you have anything else you want to add to that before? I think we're probably going to jump off of this. Do you have anything else?
No. I think the transparent conversations are, the right thing to do. And, we can always agree to disagree, but I think that this is information that should be shared with your potential love interest. I just do,
I don't think you should start any relationship based off of a lie.
You want me to be able to speak?
Right.
Yeah, just not when I'm speaking. You got to hold on a second. Let me get mine out, and then I promise I'll let you get yours. Okay, go ahead. Anybody else before we jump to the next thing?
D, did you want to say something?
D, you good. You just keep recapping. I can't keep recapping. You got to, if you know the flow of what we're talking about, then go ahead and jump in. But every time you be like, oh, now hold on.
I was just going to say that. Like,
okay, go ahead. You good. Go ahead.
If, you think, like a man that, let's say there's a man that is afraid of coming across a man that's a woman. I mean, or, pretend, whatever.
A transgender woman. A transgender woman. So a male who, a female born, a male born woman.
I don't know how to say it.
Transgender.
So that person that comes across this person, there needs to be, like a standard where you have to, like, there's some people, and this could cause trouble. Like, somebody could do something stupid.
It's absolutely possible.
Just because their, like, belief, like imagine like they're Christian, and there's fucking I met Christians. They're psychos.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on Nikki about that next week.
Christians are psychos, man. Imagine a Christian that comes across somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have that conversation next week.
They're stupid enough. The person.
Yeah, go ahead. D, I'm gonna let you go right now. You own it a little bit. Come back next week. You own it a little too much. I can't. It's hard for me to have a conversation with you at the moment. But come back next week. I can't do nothing else with that. Otherwise, I'm gonna be.
And again, we are not promoting, condoning violence by any means. Like, regardless of what our perspective is on when it should or shouldn't be shared, like a person's response being volatile, bully, aggressive, threatening, that's never okay. You can be disappointed, you can be shocked, you can be surprised, you can be all the what the fucks, but you do not get to put your hands on somebody because maybe he or she is not who you thought that they were. We don't want that to ever happen to anybody. So that's not saying that me saying a person should be truthful is me saying, well, you should also be putting yourself in danger. We got to figure out the solution to that. But I'm saying not being truthful is not the solution to this. That's not it. It's just not. So, you gotta be honest. You gotta be honest. So like somebody said, like if you tell the truth in the beginning, then it doesn't go any further. Like emotions aren't more involved to where a person may have such a negative response to then being told the truth later. It's not a perfect situation at all.
I got a question. When was the last time you called somebody something phobic?
I just call people racist. I don't call them phobics.
You blackophobic.
But I call them racist because they are. You know what I'm saying?
So Nikki say it all the time. Then it's just not okay.
But doesn't phobic? Doesn't phobic mean afraid?
It's
Yeah.
a
Doesn't phobic
fear
mean you're
of.
scared or?
Yeah, it's a fear of, and like that's what
But, right.
Extreme
oftentimes.
response.
Yeah, but you know, Nikki, I mean, I don't think that you just wanting to know means you're afraid of them. I think it just means you just want to. You just
saying that I think a person should tell early on.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Is what
That's
the
what she
issue
got
is.
Yeah, you people have a right to not be tricked, because that's what that. I mean, if you don't like, if they're that, I mean, if they're of that persuasion or that way, and they don't tell somebody, they're basically tricking that person. And like Dee said, people
Tricking
don't
is
like
a
to be
tough
tricked.
word,
That's how violence happens. Like you said, Nikki. I mean, yeah, honesty is the most important thing, because that trickery, that deceiving people is what like causes the violence, because people don't like to be tricked. Especially
can
not
take
if
that
like,
across.
especially not if like, you know, especially not if it's a situation where like, I mean, you see, you know, so I mean, especially not with a situation that's like that personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Armand, I mean, that's a valid point. It goes across a lot of things, though. Somebody tricks you into believing that they're anything else. They tell you that they're
Yeah.
wealthy. They tell you that their
Yeah.
profession is whatever. They tell you that they're straight. They tell you whatever those things are. When they're starting it on a lie, they're risking having a really visceral reaction if they let it get too deep. Because the further along things go with someone being lied to and being tricked, the more strongly they're going to react when they find out that somebody was able to pull the wool over their eyes that time. Because then they feel foolish, then they feel all kind of ways on top of it. Then those compound the emotions that they had.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just be upfront with people, live in your truth. There's never a time where it should be met with a violent reaction, but live in your truth and sort out your people. Weed out the bad ones who have a problem with it anyway.
So let's go here then. What qualifies someone as being homophobic? Jules, what would a person do, say, or their actions to where you'd be like, okay, you're homophobic?
The majority of that to me is men who are aggressive, verbally, physically, who are demeaning, who are bullying, who have those kind of reactions. I don't really know women, like I don't associate with women that are homophobic like that. We just don't give a I don't give a fuck. I mean, when I was one of my best friends, when I was around 21-ish, came out, and she and I had been friends for like 5 years. We met in high school, and she was like, "Oh my God, I thought you were gonna kick my ass." I'm like, "For what? I don't give a I could care less. Like, there's just less competition to me. Cool, man. Like, whatever, you know." We're still best of friends to this day. That's my sister. Like, that stuff, women don't care as much, you know, as far as what I see in it is men, and the phobia, the fear of becomes being associated with. Because that same friend, when we go out, when I'm like, especially if I'm back in New Orleans and we go out and we're kicking it, like she knows she has to back off and not butch up and make people think that I'm with her. Like, like, you're not going to have if I'm single and I'm out with you, you're not going to have every man up in here thinking by association that I'm gay, and they're not going to come and approach me because of the way that you're butching up and interacting with me. Back off, you my sister. Let me have my fun. You know, the homophobia part of it comes where the fear of association, and it's not a fear to me. It's a matter of don't block my action if I'm single.
Don't block that action. Don't be a block. Hold on. Okay, so I see a good one. Who did this? Okay, I don't know. That might have been Cash.
Well, do you want me to read that?
Let me see.
Homophobia real quick.
No. I don't want you to read it first, because
Okay.
I want to hear people's natural opinion.
Okay.
Now this is a good one. I think this is we asked what being homophobic is. A person who doesn't think being gay is right. Now they also said take away their right. Oops, I did the same thing you did. Take away their rights, bully someone for. Okay, so I got away taking away rights, bullying someone for sexuality. Take that to the side. Put that to the side. Let's go here. Just a person who doesn't think being gay is right. Is that homophobic?
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
I think so. I think
that's a great area.
I think if you can say that another human is not right or going to hell or less of a human because who they choose to have consensual adult relations with, then yeah, I think that's definitely bordering on the line of homophobia.
So, okay,
Absolutely.
hold on. Nikki, don't take it that far. Don't take it to the going to hell or doing all this other stuff. They just say, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's
right, but
natural.
not right generally has some principles as to what's not right in your mind and spirit. What about that makes it not right? It may be different, but what about it is not right? So it being different is one thing. It being not my preference is one thing. It being not right, wrong, immoral, that's a whole nother conversation. So now
you say that's homophobic.
Yeah, I would think that
okay, good. See, this is right where I want to be. This is perfect. Jules, because Jules had a slightly different thought about this.
Right.
I'm like, no, they ain't necessarily Jules. What do you think?
I think that when you start getting to the point of to simply say that's not right, to me is more along the lines of that's just not my cup of tea. I don't agree with that, and leaving it at that. When you start getting into the judgment factor, when you start getting into the moral high ground and saying it's immoral, when you go any further than that with it, when you start saying someone's going to be condemned, and I mean, years ago, I was in small groups at church and we had this conversation because it spurred off of a sermon. And I looked at all the people in my little 11, 12 of us in this group and I said, wait, hold on. Judge not, lest ye be judged by the same measure. Like, who are you to judge these people? If they are, in fact, if you think if there's something they're going to burn in hell and that's you're standing on that, cool, don't do it. Don't, but you judging them, it says in the Bible real clearly, you ain't supposed to be doing. That it says. So if you're gonna take a Christian moral high ground,
that's not entirely Christian either.
If you're gonna take that moral high ground like that to say that someone else's actions that are not harming anyone are going to condemn them to that level, to condemn them to hell, that it's an abolition of whatever, like all of those. If it's abomination, if it's an abomination, those type of things.
Right.
An extreme reaction to it. If it's just it's not my thing. Okay, it's not your thing. Once you start taking things to extremes, that's where I think that's where it crosses the line to me into homophobia. Okay.
Now, I do want to push back on the people. I feel that people take that scripture out of context because it does say judge not unless you should be judged. But the Bible does a whole lot of judging, especially for it judges constantly, especially to those who are of the faith. They give criteria. Paul rebuked people on numerous occasions. Jesus rebuked people. So it's that scripture is valid, but there's also counterbalances to that also. Armand, what do you think? If someone if they think that it's not right, does that mean that they're homophobic?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I'm looking up what phobia means. I got my dictionary here. I'm looking up what phobia.
Right.
Phobia, according to the Webster Dictionary, it means an exaggerated, usually inexplicable and illogical fear of a particular object, class of objects, or situations. It means an exaggerated fear of, an intolerance or aversion for. I don't think that makes a person homophobic. If a person thinks something isn't right, like if I say adultery isn't right.
Right.
If I say cheating on my spouse is not right, that doesn't mean I'm afraid of it. That doesn't mean I have an illogical fear of it. It just means I don't think it's the right thing to do.
Nikki, we'll come back to you. He was in the classroom teaching. What you got a response to that?
I mean, adultery is not a right thing to do, but adultery is. And this is where, we can obviously agree to disagree because everybody feels differently about this, but adultery is a choice. For some people, being gay is not. For some people, being born with a chromosome that changed something internally and externally, I don't fucking know. I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but I'm not going to tell another adult that who they love consensually is wrong as long as it's with an adult. I don't think that gay people are going to mean we're just going to die as a society and we never can repopulate ever again. Like so when you get into the phobias of why
you
people
sidestepping the question though.
No, because when you get into why people think it's not right, these are the reasons why people think it's not right. Because we're not going to be able to populate the earth, and whatever reasons people have an issue with same-sex love or transgender love, whatever, something.
But can
that's
you
not
wholeheartedly
the
say
norm.
because someone doesn't agree with it that they're afraid of it?
No, I can't. Well,
then that's where the phobia. Maybe we're mislabeling.
It would depend on why that person has an aversion to it. It would depend on what is it about this union that bothers you so much it's not right. What is it about that? Now, do you speak out against them? Do you vote against their right to get married? Do you vote for legislation that says you cannot be an equal? Do you vote for legislation that says that gay people can't adopt children?
Right.
Like, do you act in ways that support this it ain't right shit, or it's just not my preference? Because it's not my preference is a lot of things, but it ain't right is another story.
Okay, so even still, so that goes to you can disagree with something without trying to oppress it, right?
Yes, I think so.
So that wouldn't make it homophobic, right? Just say, I disagree, but live your life, do you, be happy, live long and prosper.
As long as nothing that you are doing post that thought affects another person's life, then it's just preference. It's just like I don't want to date a man who's 5'5". It's just fucking preference. I don't love men any less.
You shortophobic.
I don't love men any less. I still love men. I still think men are fantastic, right? I just don't want to date a short one. We have preferences. Now, if I went out and legislated against short men and made short men's life difficult and did some bullshit to short men every day to make them feel like short men, like then we got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But
but let them tell it you already did because you're gonna refuse to date them just because of their height, girl.
Yep. You shortophobic. You shortophobic. So in that aspect, then you do agree with Armand and Jules.
Right. Do you vote for gay rights or do you just say, nah, I'm not going to vote? You know what I'm saying? So how do you express your support or not suppress or not express your support?
Okay, well, I mean, I was thinking about it and because I was looking at the news and they were saying how some people believe that the gay marriage thing shouldn't be legal. But then I remembered, okay, in our Constitution, we got the 14th Amendment that says if one group of Americans have one set of rights, another group of Americans have to have the same rights. And I know from history class that was passed because of those laws in the South called the Black Codes that only applied to Black people. They didn't apply to people of other races living in that same state. So Congress had to pass the 14th Amendment that said everybody in America, if you're an American citizen, you got to have the same rights as every other American citizen. So if we're going to say that American citizens have the right to get married, then the 14th Amendment means that if heterosexual Americans have the right to get married, then that means that homosexual Americans and lesbian Americans, they got to have the same rights because they're American citizens too. I mean, those people pay taxes and so they got to have the same rights.
Right.
I think gay marriage should be legal. Now there's some other Americans, the libertarians, they say marriage shouldn't even be a legal institution. They say judges should have no right to marry anybody. That if you're a judge, that's not even that shouldn't even be part of your job description. They say if you want to get married, you got to go to your private religious institution, or you just or you just just done privately. But
they've introduced capitalism into it.
Yeah, that's the business aspect of the marriage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The legal aspect and protection of it is the whole purpose behind, because I've known before gay marriage was legalized, I had friends who held ceremonies that I attended.
Right.
And they gave themselves to each other before God. They weren't given the legal protection of the piece of paper that comes with going to the courthouse and getting the certificate, getting the license and having that certificate afterwards, which I tried to tell them before they went off and did that nonsense. Okay, but when it falls apart, You're going to have to go through all the legal bullshit that comes with that too. So guess what? Now you're part of divorce world also. Welcome to the full game. You get the rights. You get screwed with all of the detriments that come with divorce. And if you've been there
it's
before,
EOE. It's EOE and this motherfucker. You wanted it to go.
Exactly. It's equal opportunity, baby. You wanted
Right.
good stuff. Now guess what comes with that? And
But that is always something I've always wondered, why do judges have the power to marry people? I thought judges were supposed to decide cases.
That's my ex-husband. He said marriage ain't nothing but it's nothing but a contract, and contracts are made to get broken. But of course, he waited till we were getting divorced to say that shit.
Cassia, what ain't very Christian-like? I need you to get on next week too. I got a bone to pick with all y'all. Y'all just been Mayweather, just jabbing. I'm coming.
And see, all I see it.
Nikki been jabbing for the last 3 weeks. We got some stuff to talk about.
I don't bring it up too much.
You been jabbing. And I don't let go of nothing. I still got an argument with Edward from 2 months ago. I still got to get off my chest. I ain't letting that go. I remember what he said.
What you say, Kim? I said it's not very Christian-like.
What's not very Christian-like?
To vote against somebody having rights because of your religious beliefs. Get in here.
I agree with that, but you can't go off of what I say because people don't.
You agree with what?
People, let me go back as always. I'm a principled person. Everything I do, I talk principally based. I believe in human rights. I believe that everyone should be treated equal. If there's any advantage that one person, race, gender has that the other doesn't have, then it's an imbalance and it needs to be fixed. All the way across the board. So for me, the focus is not even on gay rights and gay marriage. It's human rights and human marriage. And if anyone or any group of people are not given those same rights, then I feel like it's wrong. So that's the principle of how, I don't just. So for me, I wouldn't even call it gay rights. I call it human rights.
Right.
Okay, but then we also have to understand, we got to go back to extremes when you start saying that. We have to go back to the extremes because people.
I'm a free thinker. I ain't got to do none of that.
Believe that it should be fucking right and they should have a right to it. People that believe in bestiality believe that they should have a right to it.
Hey,
so now
listen.
There's got to be some.
But I was gonna say,
kids know if you want to mess with animals, that's up to you.
But I was gonna say though, like they say, like from a legal standpoint, they say, like, for example, when Drew, you mentioned, like, because like I've heard some people say that if you let the same-sex marriage happen, then next thing you know, people gonna be like, doing things with animals.
Yes, exactly.
But then the lawyers say, well, it goes back to consent. Like an animal can't consent to. You know what I mean?
But Jules, yeah, exactly. And just like kids can't consent. So that's why, Jules, I don't think that's a fair statement, which is probably the same statement I probably have made or made a few years. When you make the comparison of the gay rights to people wanting to be with children. But you use the connection, say, if we go here, then this is going to be the next step or the next
because I love to be a devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I'm certain I've done that before, but I don't think that's fair. Hopefully, it's not fair. I don't think so. We at 9:24. So have we got the phobia? Do we need to touch on transphobia, or is it the same thing across the board as well?
I mean, phobia is phobia.
Nikki is being accused of being transphobic.
And let me explain to you, for those of you who aren't familiar, let me explain where this came from. Hold on, Cassia wants to jump in. I'll explain where this conversation came from. So a couple years ago, we were talking about, or a couple years ago when transgender athletes first started making mainstream playing in, so basically it was male-born women wanting to play women's sports. So male-born women wanting to play female-born women's sports. And I try to be as politically correct as possible and label things accurately. So follow me. Transgender men wanting to play women's sports, essentially. And there was an article that was written maybe like 2 years ago or so. And the headline of the article was something to the effect of transgender women being a threat to women's sports. And So when you say a threat to women's sports, naturally the word phobia comes in, right? And people start talking about being scared, this phobic feeling. And as a woman, female born woman, as a mother, my statement was that yes, transgender women are a threat to women's sports. My daughter just logged in. She's got the little picture, right? If my daughter spent all of her middle school and high school career fighting to play a specific sport, and we spent tens of thousands of dollars year after year after year trying to propel her in her sport and go to camps and play select and all of these things, for her at her senior level year to maybe get beat by a male born woman who just started taking testosterone in the last 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, that is a threat to women's sports. I'm not saying that transgender women shouldn't play sports. I'm not saying they shouldn't be given an opportunity to do exactly what they love to do. I just agreed that transgender women playing sports with female-born women was an unfair advantage to women. You can agree to disagree with my thoughts. I don't know what the solution to it is, but I agreed, and for that I was called transphobic because I was afraid that transgender athletes.
So you're trans sports phobic.
I'm not, because I don't have a fear that men are going to just come in and fucking decimate every single woman that plays sports. However,
let me say it. I am trans sports phobic because I do have a fear that it will unlevel the playing field. That's a real fear that I have when it comes to women's sports.
You know, I do have a question though. I mean, I'm sorry, Kasha, go ahead. Okay, my question is, and I think Jules brought this up. Like, you know how in the Special Olympics they got their own Olympics and they got their own sports? Why can't the trans community have their own games and their own sports, and then have let the like biologically born men and women
because
have their own?
They want to. Trans women want to be fully identified as women, as if there is no difference at all. So
they want to be fully identified as biological women.
Yes.
But they can't do the same things biological women can do.
I ain't say that. I just said they want to be identified as fully women in the same way that a female-born woman is labeled.
Well, right. I mean,
that's why I'm just giving you an answer to why the whole trans Olympics thing is not something that most trans people subscribe to, because they want to be looked at as absolutely no different than the gender they identify as. They don't want to be in a subcategory or a secondary category or just a separate. They want to be, I am a woman, complete woman in every single way. That's how they want to be identified.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. So, like, I use a wheelchair. I mean, I understand it, but like, I use a wheelchair and I use crutches. So I can't just go out and say, well, you got to identify me as somebody that doesn't use a wheelchair and crutches just because I want it.
That part.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just telling you. I ain't disagreeing with you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Kasha, jump in. I know you. Go ahead.
No, what I was saying earlier was it's weird because there are women who have higher levels of testosterone and they will get disqualified from competing in events.
This is true.
A natural born woman will not be allowed to compete with other natural born women. But now we can have transgender women who are biologically born a man compete with women. It's just it's
that's because weird. That's because for women who have elevated testosterone, there is no specialty group that's rallying for them. They have no support system.
That's because it's about controlling women in our bodies.
Sport because of her own body, then why should somebody else who actually does naturally produce all of this, who does have more of an advantage, right? Why do they get to compete with women if a woman can't compete with a woman for the same testosterone level?
You talking about what should be. I'm just telling you why it is.
And ironically, I think those athletes that were highlighted in this past Olympic session, they were Black women athletes too. So then you have the issue of, it just so conveniently happens to be two Black, I think track
Track
and field stars from Africa, I want to say, who traditionally, I guess, in this region of Africa, the women just have a higher level of testosterone anyways, get disqualified. So again, I'm not saying
I don't disagree with that. I feel like
I have the solution for these things. I don't, but I just do. I will never not believe that a male-born woman doesn't have an advantage that a female-born woman biologically doesn't have. I mean,
and I don't think a female-born woman, if they have, and some women have, different testosterone issues. If your testosterone is elevated above what they say is the average or acceptable to the point it gives you an advantage, I don't think you should be able to compete. I don't.
So I mean, because I agree with you, Q. Because I don't think that, because I think like
that's the whole purpose of why they have a split between men and women's sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean,
and weight classes, different weight classes in different sports.
If someone is naturally producing a hormone, that's different than taking a shot and getting hormones by, you got to get extra hormones by taking shots and stuff and things like that. I mean, yeah.
I'm saying even if you naturally produce it at a much higher rate than the average woman, I still don't think you should be able to compete. Sorry. Just like and it's not just that. It's like, do you know in Olympic sprints, they have wind limitations. If the wind is blowing too hard, then they don't disqualify the person, but they disqualify your time as being counted as a permanent record. You can't break a record, break a world record if the wind is blowing too hard.
Wait, Q. So you just said that you don't think that you think that women who naturally produce a higher testosterone level should not be allowed to compete against other women? Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, Olympically, I do not believe they should be able to compete.
Yeah, like if we're talking about unfair advantages.
No, to me, hold up. If you understand what the after shower towel race is, and if you know what a fucking jellyfish sneeze is, then you can participate in women's fucking sports. And
I don't know none of that is. Tell me what that is.
Then no, get the hell out of here.
What did you just say? I have no idea what you just
talking about. And that's the reality of it. But these women that are on here with me,
you still ain't answering my question. What is it?
If you've never had a menstrual cycle, shut the fuck up about women's bodies. Who we get to compete? You can't compete. If you're competing in women's sports, you can't do it unless you've had a menstrual cycle. Period. If you don't have a period, you can't compete.
What does that have to do with my argument, though, Jules?
Because the testosterone levels can fluctuate throughout the month. Our estrogen and testosterone levels fluctuate throughout the month. So if they happen to test someone right before their period starts, then their progesterone levels are higher. Our cycle throughout our entire month, our hormone levels fluctuate. So that same woman, you might test her on the first of the month and she's in the middle of ovulation and her estrogen is higher. So her testosterone is lower. So you're not going to get the same reading. But then you test her again right before her period.
Though. Let me tell you an eyeball test, though. Because all of that, what you're saying, that could be the issue, but it has not been the issue for 98% of women. And you can tell, the African women that Nikki are talking about, you can look at that woman and tell that she's getting a high level of testosterone going through her body. Just look at the woman that they're talking about.
But a woman that doesn't,
and plain to see.
Okay, but understand, a woman who doesn't have a high testosterone level, if she works out excessively, if we work out and reduce our body fat below a certain percentage, our testosterone goes through the roof. We stop having periods.
All Olympians do. Jules, what are you talking? All of them work year round. All of them have 0% body fat, except for people who do shot put and disc throw. Any sprinters or long distance runners, 0% body fat. They work out year long. They all working out, but their testosterone levels do not exceed a certain level. For those who do, no, you shouldn't get in. You shouldn't be able to.
Mm.
And this is me. I'm speaking as an athlete.
Right. And I think that what you're saying, Q, is speaking to the unfair advantage that like literally the whole point of this conversation was about the unfair advantage that a male-born woman has physically, chemically, genetically, over a female-born woman. Now, does that mean that women can't beat men? Of course some women can beat men, absolutely.
Right.
But there's just a baseline difference, I think, when you're talking about a male-born woman having an advantage over a female-born woman. And for that purpose alone, many of us, myself, do not feel like transgender athletes should participate in female sports.
And let me speak to what Norris is saying. He's talking about, guys taller in Finland can't compete in basketball because everyone else is short. Height makes a difference. That's why everybody in the NBA, even the shortest person in the NBA, is still about 5 or 6 inches taller than me. Like it, and I promise you, I've met some of the dopest, coldest basketball players that you've ever met. As good as anybody, but they weren't born 6'6", and that's why they're not in the NBA playing with. They're as good and as skilled, but they're not tall enough, and the basket size itself, 10 foot, don't change. So the taller and closer you are to the basket, it gives you an advantage. There's a clear advantage. We can't. I mean, what's wrong with us? We act like advantages don't exist.
And I think because in a politically correct world where we're trying to make sure everybody...
I'm tired of politically correct world. Oh my God.
I agree.
Yeah.
But in a world where we're trying to manifest inclusion versus exclusion, this is where the fucking gray line gets really, really muddy. Because people say, oh, well, you're excluding. When in fact, allies truly do want to include.
Right.
But they're just... I don't know what the solution is, but I know that that's not it, and I stand by it, and I stand by I am not a fucking homophobic person, and I'm not a transphobic person. And if you think that about me, I encourage you to take a look at why you think that about me, because I am not those things.
I'm a transports phobic.
Transports.
And you get that on me.
And I think sports is about the only place where I feel a type of way about what's right or what's not the rightist, because I don't even want to say wrong. I don't know what the solution is. I just know that that's not it. So the phobic thing, people throw that around a lot, and I think that's where it gets reckless and it gets dangerous.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest, and I'll let somebody else jump in.
Yes,
the reason I asked the question, but I see your beer game looking nice though, Stoke.
You like it?
I do. He bailed on us weeks ago. He better be working on that beer.
So hold on, let me say this real quick. I'm just real. The whole phobic thing label. I think that's a lazy. Maybe is that what I want to say? I think it's lazy when it comes to arguing. Instead of digging deep. I see a lot of people just go with the whole phobic thing. Oh, you just dysphobic. It's a way of being dismissive of another person's opinion that differ from yours.
But
it's lazy.
I don't even think it's just that, Q. I think it's more than that. When you call somebody phobic of some sort, especially in the terms in which we're using, transphobic and homophobic, when you call somebody those things,
it's bullying also. I hate to use the word bullying.
It's just bullying.
But you use that trigger word to get to ally, because once you label somebody as something phobic, now you've invited all of the allies to say, oh, Nikki, she the homophobic one, and without even knowing, then people just jump on.
Real.
Right, and thank you, Jules. They use it for the purpose of cancel culture.
Yep.
And what they want to do is actually silence your voice or silence your opinion.
Yeah, yes.
And you most definitely not homophobic in any way, shape, or form.
And I get it, but it's frustrating because you can. It's a perfect for me. Because it's a perfect example of how a person can really try to live righteously, think righteously, treat other people righteously, stand up for other people righteously, fight for other people righteously, speak out for other people righteously, take bullets for other people righteously, and you still get fucking thrown under the bus. The second that you say something that doesn't align with somebody else's belief system or thoughts about something, and that is, for me, my favorite statement is a hit dog gonna holler. And that is what that is to me. When you throw something out there like that, I'm not going to call you a racist unless you give me all the reason to believe that you are a racist.
I will.
Right, but that's because you gave it to me. You gave me
Nikki
the
will
reason to
too.
call
I
you
don't
a
know what
racist.
Nikki
I'll call a
talking about.
motherfucker racist quick.
Because they gave
Not
it to
quicker
me.
than Nikki will, I promise you.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty quick with it.
So you don't throw things,
Nikki
you
got
don't
a hair trigger on that.
you don't throw inflammatory things like that out to people if you're not 100% with why you're calling somebody a name. You don't call somebody, you don't call people shit that they're not. Like, and so to
Right.
use that as what you use speaks volumes of you, in my personal opinion.
I'm coming in late on this whole topic and everything, but yeah, back to the I'm an ally to everybody. I don't care what you are, but I've been called a racist, and me, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But let me back up real quick. A woman, when it comes to competing with a man, for me, this is my opinion, the only time a woman in any physical athletic competition that she can beat me is gonna probably be running. I'm quick, but I ain't no long distance cat. I got you 20 yards, 30 yards. After that, she might take me, and that's fine. I watch women run all the time. That little Sha'Carri Richards or whatever from Dallas right here, she gonna smoke me in the 50 and the 100. I already know that. But anything else, boxing, wrestling, basketball, football, anything like that, I got her. So not all competitions can women compete in. And Nikki said something about women being outperformed, or what'd you say earlier, just a while ago, Nikki? I'm sorry. When I was coming in,
just an unfair advantage that a male-born female has over a female-born woman.
female. Yes, and that I could see that. You got women lifting weights right now. A male-born woman lifting weights against a male-born female.
Breaking records, dominating world records,
killing them. I mean, and I don't see that as fair. I can't remember the kid's name, the little black kid that ran track. I mean, he was running the 200 and smoking a by 100. And it's just an unfair advantage. I feel. So with that being said, I'm still an ally to them. I'm still going to fight for them and fight for their rights and speak out against wrongdoings to them. But I just think, and then they will call me, oh, you're homophobic, or you're transphobic, or you're this and you're that. No, man, I'm just simply pointing out the differences.
Right.
So,
right.
So let me ask a question before we close out. I want to examine all parts. So we've been dealing with this thread, Nikki. Is it possible that you were triggered based upon things that happened before? Is it possible that she could have been speaking more generally, or do you think it was really specific toward you, or it could have just been towards your argument and not toward you directly? Do you think that, is it possible that you, and I don't know, I'm not even trying to.
You mean the first conversation or tonight's conversation?
No, the conversation in the thread.
For tonight?
Yes.
I don't think that it was at all personal. I mean, I don't think it was anything personal. I think that Patrick was just responding.
Do you think she was just saying you are homophobic, or she think like people with that viewpoint, that's a homophobic viewpoint, or people with
yes? So she said people with that viewpoint essentially are. She said so the homophobes need to identify themselves so that other people can be protected. And so I then spoke on behalf of people who are like me, who feel a type of way.
So do you think she was directing that towards you when she said it?
Do I say it again?
Do you think she was directing that statement towards you when she said it?
I mean, I don't know. She replied to my comment, so I mean,
everybody replies, and that's why I'm asking.
I don't know,
but I'm saying you could
be. When
like
she called Nikki out, and when she called Nikki out, and she said if being gay is the single deal breaker, that's homophobic, and directed it back at Nikki to me. Because Nikki had already made it clear that her preference is not to be with someone who is bisexual. Her preference is to be with a male-born male who is straight and always has been. And so, to say if being gay is the single deal breaker, that's homophobic,
Yeah, I guess that was personal.
Directly in response to her.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay. Now, I give a little, once you're engaged in the conversation, then but I was asking more about the initial response. I didn't know if I didn't know if you felt that was directed towards you or just directed in general, or.
No, I think initially it was just how she felt about the way that people were tapping into that
mindset.
Answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we engaged in conversation directly because I seen what was said and I was like, oh, here I come.
Okay, so Nikki, and I'm wondering, Nikki, so maybe you don't need to wear it the same way the last person tried to address you as being transphobic. This may have not been that. I mean, we talking about the phobics. That's what we're talking about right now. So so maybe that doesn't apply the same way. But by the time you get to,
I was in the outskirts of all that nonsense back then too, and I'm going to say the same thing. When someone starts waging ad hominem attacks at you,
well, that was different back then.
When they start with the bullshit of attacking you on a character level instead of having an intelligent conversation and being able and willing to hear you out, and that's the danger of all these extreme homophobic or transphobic or racist or you're this, that, or the other because you said one sentence or one word that I didn't agree with, and I'm going to label you as this extreme thing.
Right.
That's where the danger of that, because now you're waging ad hominem attacks against their character, against the person, instead of being able to have a level-headed conversation that would ever come to any sort of understanding. Once they start saying you're this because you said that, no, man, no.
And I don't think I'm not going to say it was a direct attack. I think when people interpret something separate from what other people are saying, like, so the response is a certain way. Who actually put the post up? Did Patches put the post up?
I did.
Nikki started.
Okay, so you started the post. So when people respond in a way and you hear it differently from the way that everyone else hears the question, it's easy to just go off in a direction and take it as feel like I'm sure I've done this before. You feel like you're being threatened, and then when you go back and look, it's like that ain't what the post was actually saying, and people were not even responding to that post based in the way that you were responding to it.
Sure.
So with that in mind, I don't look at it as like directly malicious. I just think that's the danger of not really understanding what you already have an internal trigger, and what that did, you got triggered in a way that the post didn't even warrant, and now you respond accordingly, and that's just what I see. That's all.
It doesn't look like a trigger reading these comments. There was questions that were asked and she answered directly to those questions. How's that a trigger if you're asking questions and somebody,
because even still she's speaking from the standpoint, she's looking at it from the angle of the awareness and the cautiousness of violence that comes from expressing your truth. As someone who is in the LGBTQ community.
Okay, but there are people who are involved in these threads who have consistently shown that they will not answer the full question and engage. They would much rather take a holier than thou moral high ground standing and say, well, you're wrong because you don't think the way I think, and that's all there is to it, and you're a terrible person because of that. And then they want to step away from the post instead of being willing to get their ass on the fucking video and have a conversation.
Well, look, Jules, this is what I will say. Me doing this as long as I've been doing this, I've witnessed everyone take something out of context and pinpoint it to what, including myself, and pinpoint it to their own hurt and their own sensitive spots. And they take a post that's not directly talking about what they're talking about, but something pulled their heartstring, and then they made the post about what's most sensitive to them. And then it takes, I've seen everybody do it. I mean, everybody. And like I said, including myself. So, I mean, I think even with free thinkers, that in itself is a process. And that's why I make a strong effort to not let people veer off. Like, nope. That ain't what we're talking about. Stay on topic. It's because then it makes for a better conversation later on down the line. And it's easy for people to do when emotions are involved. Go ahead, Jules.
It changes the whole nature of the conversation.
Right.
Like I had a couple conversations this weekend where I had to like really bear down on stay on topic, because what you do when you bring in your emotions is you deflect. You totally now turn this into something else. And I don't know. I don't necessarily think that I personally had a trigger response to that. I just know I'm not finna let people come in there and just start vomiting shit and think that you're not finna get called to the carpet. Like not in a conversation where like you just like turned over here when we were trying to go this way. Like, and then to throw out words like attack words like that, you got to be careful with that, man.
I think that phobic is a trigger word for you now. Anybody call you something phobic, then they got you.
Listen, you can call me what you fucking want. To be completely honest, you can call me all the things that you want, and I'm totally okay with that. But it just, the unfortunate part is people who engage in that type of behavior in the society are literally a part of the fucking problem with why we are where we are. So me and all this mouth here is going to use my platform to at least tell you about you while I have the opportunity, because that's what we do.
Yeah, because again, Q, you said it a little while ago. You so sick and fucking tired of this politically correct bullshit. And the homophobic and the transphobic, and when you just throw it out there just to see what's going to stick on the wall, just to see how you can divert the conversation, just to see what kind of reaction you can get from people, that is just trying to
dangerous.
politically correct nonsense, and it's very dangerous.
I don't disagree,
because people who are on a soul level allies, who don't know how to enter an arena where they could show allyship for a group that is a minority group of whatever that is.
Right.
They don't know how to bridge and get into there and show their allyship. When they get immediately labeled things that are this extreme, it shuts them down. It turns them off.
I agree. So what I'm doing right now, just to be in all honesty, what I'm doing right now, I'm just trying to give balance. And number one, going back to principle, when I say principle all the time, I want to always reaffirm people. We will aggressively push back, debate, argue opinions and points of view, but we don't argue people themselves. So this entire conversation is not directed toward any one person or any group of people. It's directed toward a mindset or a thought or an opinion. We're open to challenge and attack opinions, but not people. That's with
respect.
Yes, and that's why I want to make sure. That's why I'm just evening that out. Armand, before we close out, what's your last thoughts, Armand?
This was a good discussion. We heard from all kinds of viewpoints.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Kasha, what's your thoughts?
We're good over here.
Good over here.
We're good over here. It was good.
That's what's up.
It's good.
Stokely, what you got, sir?
Man, I wish I'd have been here earlier. God,
we wish you would have been here. He was brushing his beard. That's what he was doing.
No, it really wasn't. It just grew this way.
1,000 strokes on each side.
It just grows like this now.
You're like, oh, shoot, it's 9 o'clock. Let me.
No, I wish I'd have been here earlier. I just pulled in. I had some things to do, and so I was late. I was pissed off because I was late, but it sounded like it was a good conversation. Back real quick, those trigger words, and I try not to get emotional at this point, but it is something that some people called me before, and it just sends me over the top, and then I become emotional, and I shouldn't, and I've gotten a lot better about it. It's the N word, the magic word. Mm-hmm. When people used to call me that, I'd lose my shit, and it's just crazy. So I sit back now and I let them say what they want to say. And it just shows their ignorance. And so that's one that will get me. And it still kind of gets me sometimes, but, not like I used to. So Nikki, don't worry about the little trigger words that they talking about. Don't you sweat. Don't you worry.
Jules.
Go ahead about those.
Jules, what's your final thoughts, Jules?
We learning.
Damn it, let people just love each other. What the hell, man? Stop. You know, I think that we have to look at the larger programming that's going on, and and my dad always told me that anytime somebody starts waging ad hominem attacks, when they start coming at you, your person, your character, any of those things, and they veer off of the actual topic, whatever that topic is, whether that's politics, whether the things that we talk about, we have no all those off topics, all those off. You can't talk about things. We do all those, right? Doesn't matter what it is. If they're attacking the person, they don't have a leg to stand on. Like, that's why they're going after you that way. But on a larger scale, this is happening in the programming, in the media, across all media, to divide us. Damn it. At the end of the day, we have more in common with the people who live in our little 20-block radius than we do with any person who has the same sexual preference or skin color or religion or whatever else. Like, we need to find the common grounds and stop allowing those triggers to divide us, because at the end of the day, it's all the human race, just one of us. And I don't want it to take the aliens to actually come down and attack for people to freaking realize.
It's gonna take that, I promise you.
I know, I've been said that.
And once the aliens leave, we're gonna be right back at it in 6 months.
You already know. You already know.
Yeah,
we're a raggedy species.
Way to stop
I'm gonna quote that and put it up on Facebook.
We are a raggedy species. I swear to
we
God.
are raggedy species.
We are raggedy species. Nikki, what's your last thoughts? That's funny.
Just be mindful with your words, man. And I'm very intentional with my words too. So that doesn't mean that if a person is, calling me names that I don't like, that they're not being intentional with their words either, right? But you need to be intentional and educated and in tune with the words that you use. I think it's one thing to be able to have heated discussions and disagreements with people. It's another to call people names. And that's just, I don't, like, I'm too old. I'm not doing that, and if I do call you a name, I guarantee you it's because there's about 8 miles worth of documents that can support what I just said.
Absolutely.
So, it was a great conversation. And sometimes I feel like, people probably get tired of having this conversation, but actually I think this conversation needs to keep happening, because we keep having people's feelings get hurt over misunderstandings, miscommunications, lack of education and knowledge. Well, I've learned so many things about transgender people and, LGBTQ community, just doing the show and having these conversations with people who will, contribute to this conversation. And I mean, today's not what, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, you don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. And it may not be your preference. That's fine. Right. But look the other direction if that's what you want to do. Right. Like that's your option. You can look another direction. And that's not what I was trying to do in that conversation. But just be mindful with your words, be cautious with your words, be intentional with your words, and understand that words also have repercussions. You have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom of consequence.
We Gen X to fuck around and find out generation.
Fuck around and find out.
Words
be like that robot over there that broke the little boy finger. Fuck around and find out.
Okay.
But no, I do appreciate the conversation, and I know that some people feel like they get tired of having this conversation, but we really do, as a society, a raggedy ass society at that, Stokely. We do have to figure out a solution, because we are all stuck here until we aren't anymore. So exactly. we have to forge difficult conversations. We have to forge, getting out of our comfort zone and getting out of our feelings. And I read a quote today that said the start to kindness is realizing that we all fucking struggle, or something along those lines. Be kind, man.
It's about creating that space to have the conversation, and then when someone, like you were talking about earlier, veers off and starts to name calling and shit, and then the whole conversation goes to shit.
That's where you shut down.
Being able to create the space and respectfully, say your piece and say my piece, and we can have that conversation. I am the only Black person that works in my office, and everybody has a million questions. They know where I stand, because I struggle to bite my tongue when somebody says something crazy, so I just check them real quick and let them know what time it is. Oh, by the way, I'll be back on Facebook in about 31 hours.
Oh Lord, you've been on that long. Oh, you've been in jail that long. I can't even believe it.
Don't do nothing that energy over here. I rebuke you. I rebuke
you. I stayed in that motherfucker. I mean, my wife sent me a video of these people putting a snake through the wall to fish out the rats that were in the wall. And I said, burn that whole bitch down. They put your boy in jail for 30 days for that.
That was it.
That was it. So you know that I'm on that little.
But that's the manipulation. That's the.
What y'all doing? Y'all. I gave everybody last word, and y'all trying to start it back up.
My bad.
Something like the Reverend who had 3 benedictions at the end.
Look, he been gone. He been gone like a month. He been missing us. He got some stuff to say.
I got some shit to get off my chest. But anyway, yeah, this good conversation tonight. I'm sorry I missed all of it, but yeah.
Nah, you good.
Just rewatch it later. Rewatch it later.
I will.
Everybody continue to work on being a free thinker.
Right.
Because some of that stuff you have to be aware of falling into the habit of using the same talking circles that your interest group are a part of.
Sure.
And a lot of time it becomes a habit. If you're in certain interest groups and that's their common way of responding, then it will become second nature to you for you to respond that same type of way. Versus you got to practice being a free and try. I know I still have to work on it. I still have my Christian hat and my black hat and other hats on as well, but I have to be cautious of not falling into the typical, jumping off, calling everybody racist or calling somebody this as soon as they say something that I disagree with, versus actually examining what they're saying, what angle are they coming from,
right? Thinking
about how is this completely false, completely true? What parts do I disagree with? What parts don't? That's part of being a free thinker. Just examine it before you have a snap judgment to label. So look, try to make labeling the last thing that you ever do with something.
Right. And
when you make a simple comment, the first thing, and you look the label, you're trying to dismiss all that they have to offer in all of their words and their value as an individual.
Right.
So that's where free thinking comes in. So
that was a good point.
That was a great point. Yeah.
Just like crazy relationships, we can keep having these conversations until
I don't label folks until they call me the N-word, then I'm labeling y'all ass.
All right, so we're gonna close out.
Let
me say the other thing. Let me say the other thing.
Next week we have a great conversation. Oh, sorry.
Soapbox. Other thing I'm gonna say is make sure, number one, you know your allies and ask yourself some questions if you're not able to properly see who's an ally to you. If you have allies and you look at them like an enemy, then you got to ask yourself, what is it about me to where I don't see clear allies that's in front of my face? That's another, maybe you have blinders on in a certain way. You can't be so triggered by simple words or simple language that you no longer see people who are actually allies for you. And everybody else can see it, but you don't. You got to just be careful of the trigger words. And then I say with D-High, thank you for, first of all, thank everybody for the comments and people who chimed in. We greatly appreciate it. Sir, you seem like you was real high and you was just kind of incoherent a little bit. So you come back, be on it a little bit, but just make sure that you can hold the conversation because you was out of there. Go back and listen to it.
Everclear, he kept showing.
It
wasn't even just drinking; he was drinking Everclear.
Yeah, just grab a couple of Coronas and then just even yourself out a little bit. But ain't no love lost. It was hard to have a conversation at that time. But
right.
Yeah, come back next week when you're not as on it, and we enjoy to have you. Appreciate you jumping on. But outside of that, thanks for everybody who participated. I'm done. I can close up, Nikki, unless you got any last.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So next week we have a really interesting, I think, conversation that's going to just come out of Christianity,
Nikki talking that stuff.
Christianity, and just the holes that people that may not necessarily subscribe to Christianity or any religion for that matter, the holes that we see.
No, stick to Christianity. You've been jabbing Christianity. We just stay on Christianity.
I mean, that's because that's where we live. But I mean,
okay, we just stay there. We don't need to go there, bro. We're gonna stay with Christianity. We go here.
Well, I'm just gonna say people who believe in, the magic that is, God and whatever, right? But so we're gonna talk about the holes that people like me, see in some of these things, and we're gonna have to listen to this conversation. We don't do it all the time. But, every once in a while we do. And so next week is going to be the Christian conversation, the religious conversation.
No, just keep it at the Christian conversation. It's going to be good. Go ahead.
You're
Elder
Christian,
Reverend
right?
Kasha. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're Christian, right?
For lack of a better term, yes.
I just have one question.
Sure.
What or who is God? Is it a person?
That's next week.
Is it, or
That's next week.
I have to have the answer so I can formulate some questions for next week. Is it a person? Or
so again, you probably you're asking the wrong person, but the easiest way that I would identify, I would say the Creator. That's how I identify God as the Creator.
So tune in next Tuesday at 8:05 live, and we're going to talk about all these things, my child. Between now and next Tuesday, we will talk a lot.
Yeah, there we go.
But next week, we definitely, so if you're a Christian, come. If you're not a Christian, come. If you're atheist, come. If you're agnostic, come. If you're, Buddhist or Muslim or Catholic, if you don't know what the hell you are, if you want to be something and you're not really sure if you're seeking, please come to this conversation next Tuesday. And let's literally just have a very honest, transparent conversation. It's not going to be one that is going to be attacking. It's not going to be one that's going to be offensive or insulting intentionally to people. But do expect that your buttons might get pushed because everybody has their own feelings that revolve around religion and Christianity and the Bible and Jesus and the teachings and so on and so forth. So we're going to do that next week. So if you are going to engage in the conversation next week, do try to be here at 8:05 so we can start on time and we can roll through all the way. If you have some questions that you want to pose to us and you're not able to get online, of course, you can always join us in the live chat and you can throw questions up in there, or you can, add your thoughts into the live chat and we can certainly talk about it here live. But that'll be next Tuesday, 8:05. So share tonight's show if you would. Join us over on the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Shout out to everybody that participated in the chat tonight. Really appreciate y'all's support and conversation. And I guess that's it for tonight. Thank y'all for having this conversation. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.